Well, it's official. Gun owners have been sounding the alarm for years, and California has fulfilled the prophecy. Today I'm going to tell you about one of the biggest specific handgun bans the United States has ever seen. And we're going to talk about a little bit of the progression that's led up to this and how it's been a self-fulfilling prophecy, something that we've seen coming for years now, and yet everybody just kind of denied, and well, here we are. So we're going to talk about this Glock handgun ban, of course, the implications that it's going to have on gun owners that are already being smothered under unconstitutional bans and conditions and wait times and everything else, and eventually how President Trump could actually step into this. Whether he will or not, I don't know, but we've already seen him make some moves towards California and some of their unconstitutional wait times when it comes to permits. So, of course, I'd love to hear your opinion, whatever it might be. Leave that down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So, AB 1127 has been signed by Governor Newsom, and essentially what this says is that Glock-style pistols will no longer be able to be sold in the state after January 1st, 2026. Now, you'll still be able to do private party transfers through FFLs and things like that, but no new sales of Glocks will be able to come in. Now, Gen 4 and 5 Glocks have been banned in that state for a long time, so only Gen 3s have really been available. But now they're saying Glock-style pistols. So this doesn't just affect Glock, even though that's the biggest player in all of this, but essentially what they're saying is that any handgun with a cruciform-style trigger bar, which they deem as ones that can be easily convertible with your switches and things like that, are the ones that will be banned. So your PSA daggers, I don't even know if the RXM from Ruger is on the approved handgun list or not, but that would fall in line, of course, your Glocks and any other subsequent Glock clones that use that specific type of trigger bar. Now, of course, this is all in the name of public safety because so many gun owners out there are breaking the law in order to make their Glocks less reliable and less accurate. Of course, I'm being sarcastic when I say that. It is strictly criminals that are breaking the law in order to do this, and we see countless videos of some of these idiots doing just that, right? Pulling the gun out the window, just firing rounds off it every which way. We're going to talk more about how the culture kind of plays into this too, but regardless, criminals are the ones doing this. The same ones breaking the law are the same ones that don't even really care or know that this law even exists. So who does it affect? Of course, it's going to be gun owners. And in California, your rights have already been stripped almost down to nothing. I mean, every piece of gun legislation you could think of right now on the books, besides just an all-out ban and confiscation, has already been done. Now, of course, they talk about the trace numbers. So, Glocks are one of the most traced guns in crimes. And well, sure, yeah, let's go with that. What they don't understand, though, is, yeah, Glock also sells more firearms than anybody. So it is a false cause fallacy because, yes, they may be found in more crimes, but they are also used by law enforcement the most. They sell the most in the United States. A lot of gun owners, a lot of whom have disagreed with me and my opinion on Glocks, own at least one of them. They're super popular and have been. They kind of, every striker fire gun that you see on the market right now, the vast majority of them have some kind of inspiration from Glock. And so, Glock being the adopter of this and selling more, well, of course they're going to find more at crime scenes. Not only that, they're relatively affordable, right? They're super reliable. They have a robust aftermarket. And not to mention the culture. The same culture that uses and praises actors and rappers and, whoever else that use these guns in movies and lyrics and everything else condemns you, the regular gun owner, that says, oh, wow, hey, man, look, that's a Glock whatever, Glock 19 in this new action film. I don't know. And, that's really cool, right? I would like to get one of those. Or even video games, right? There's been video game companies, for instance, DICE that makes Battlefield. And Activision followed this. They make Call of Duty, right? But years ago, over a decade now, I think, they actually removed the real name from the guns in their games because they're like, oh, well, if kids play this, then we don't want to, support the gun company, so they'll just call it something ridiculous in the game, even though everybody knows what that gun already is, right? But our culture largely, I mean, no matter if you like to admit it or not, is infatuated with firearms. And I think that's great, but when it's used against regular gun owners and we're held at a different standard for crimes that people are committing and showing live on video sometimes, that's where I say you draw the line, right? The line has to be drawn there. You can't glorify something in one way and then condemn the people that actually use them, not only under the Second Amendment rights, but self-defense, a number of different uses, law enforcement. That's one other area that you have here, right? Law enforcement is still going to be able to own these guns. Again, I don't have a problem with that. But what it tells me is they have no respect for the Second Amendment, because basically it's saying government officials can have this gun, but you cannot. So here's what President Trump and the DOJ could do to intervene. Like I said, they've already done this with these unconstitutional wait times that people have had to endure in order to just get, concealed carry permits. And they could absolutely establish a pattern or practice that the state of California and their lawmakers have consistently done to restrict the constitutional rights of their citizens. We could go down the list. We could probably make an entire video of all of the ways that California has done this. And I think if you want to argue that, I don't even know what grounds you would have to argue it. They have consistently chipped away. This is what gun owners have talked about. It starts with one thing and it just trickles all the way down to actually banning specific types of guns because of the actions of what other people do or what other people sell that are highly illegal anyways, right? So makes no sense. So the DOJ could intervene on that front. They could, of course, withhold federal funding. He could even ask the ATF to look at these regulations, see if they fall in line. If there's any kind of federal grants, he could threaten to cut those as well. Now, of course, there are some things that could stand in the way, but I think Bruin would be amongst one of the strongest when you look at it from a historical standpoint, that says we don't ban certain types of guns because of the actions of a few. Let's say they found 1 million trace guns in California. This is one stat I seen. And they said 12% of those, so over 100,000, were deemed to be Glocks with this type of trigger bar. They could say, oh, well, because of that, we have found that this ban is constitutional. Still doesn't account for the millions and tens of millions more that you're never going to find their guns at a crime scene because they don't use them criminally. They abide inside of the law and what the law says. I think they really do have a constitutional argument. I guess the other thing too is, I guess it could be seen as like a duplicate measure because you're going to have the FPC, you're going to have the GOA, you're going to have the NRA filing lawsuits. So I guess they could, throw that in there too. Oh, well, it's kind of a duplicate, right? Why does the DOJ need to step in? But this is a constitutional right that must be protected, and California has done everything in their power to restrict it, and it seems like they just keep getting away with it. And so just like the freedom of speech, right, if there was a state that consistently restricted that right, or your freedom to worship, or any number of our constitutional rights, the government's job, the federal government's job, is to protect those rights. And so I see absolutely no problem with that. Now, the other thing Glock could do on their end is change that trigger bar design. Will they do it? I don't know. They did make some changes to the Gen 4s, right? They carried over to the Gen 5s. That still wasn't good enough for California. They've still banned those. They've been banned now for years. So could they actually make any changes that would satisfy this new law? Probably not. Right? I think in California's eyes and their lawmakers, they're like, oh, well, we got another win, right? We just knocked X amount of guns off the list, and they're getting closer and closer to their pretend utopia, even though we've all seen the videos of tent cities and everything else that goes on out there. It's far from a utopia. But anyways, we got to keep supporting the good companies out there that continue to fight for our rights, man, and push back on this stuff, because they'll continue to chip away if we don't. And there's a possibility that President Trump steps in as well, along with the DOJ. there you go. There's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know what you think about this down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.